Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Idea Gen Global Podcast with George Sifakis.
I'm George Sifakis. In a world overflowing with noise, there is one forum where the world's smartest voices connect, where visionaries sit at the same table as innovators, and great minds don't just talk, they act.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Excuse me! Taxi!
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And joining us now, as we're talking about the big story, everything going on in Minneapolis, is Fox News legal analyst, great best-selling author, Gregg Jarrett. Gregg, let's start with everything going on and what you saw. You've seen the videos. A lot of people have about this latest incident. Obviously terrible what happened, that somebody lost their life. Obviously there was the other case too. But when are law enforcement allowed to use deadly force?
Well, they're allowed to use deadly force when an officer reasonably believes that doing so is necessary to protect himself or others from the imminent threat of serious injury or death. So the central question here really becomes, was it reasonable under the circumstances? If so, that's self-defense. But if the officer acted with reckless disregard for the limits of his authority, that's excessive force. And, you know, those are crucial legal distinctions. There's another defense here, and I think this is what happened. It's called imperfect self-defense. That is to say, an honest but mistaken belief that your life is in danger. So, for example, if an officer is attacked by a suspect, struggles with him, sees a gun, and then suddenly hears a gunshot and perceives, albeit mistakenly, that he's being fired on when, in fact, the gun went off accidentally, that could constitute imperfect self-defense, which has the same result as self-defense. Look, it's always a terrible idea to show up at a law enforcement operation with a gun in your belt and then inject yourself by interfering with officers trying to subdue an aggressive protester and, you know, getting into a physical fight with agents. When you do that, bad things happen because it is a crime to obstruct or interfere with officers doing their jobs. So, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. It's a tragic death. But I think we all need to step back, and we haven't seen all of the videos, but we have seen some, and that's my take on it.
Judge? Gregg, good to talk to you again. I found your analysis absolutely spot on. And I also raise the issue it's becoming more of a political issue, but they're going to use the legal process, which is that the state authorities will go after this ICE agent using their state authorities to go after him, which raises the question, what kind of protections does he have, having carried out lawfully his responsibilities to protect himself and the other people around him?
Well, it's a great question. It was a federal law enforcement operation that led to the shooting involving a federal officer. So under law, the feds have legal authority over the investigation, not the state of Minnesota. And the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution protects agents from state prosecution as long as their actions were deemed necessary and proper in the performance of their duties. You know, the state of Minnesota can try to investigate on its own. It can even attempt to bring criminal charges. But again, federal ICE officers have pretty broad immunity by law from state prosecutions as long as the agent is acting in the proper scope of his duties in carrying out these immigration and deportation laws.
I agree with you 100%. And the other thing that's so troubling, and it's not talked about enough, is if the local law enforcement would cooperate with ICE. You don't
if the governor would allow them to.
The governor and the mayor would stop politicizing this and not spinning a political narrative and just cooperate in a legitimate law enforcement, you wouldn't have these kinds of confrontations. They're the ones who are egging them on.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. And, it comes down to these sanctuary cities and states. And I wrote a column 9 years ago in the first year of Trump's presidency saying that, these sanctuary cities are not legal. The Illegal Immigration Reform Act of 1996 requires states and municipalities to cooperate with federal authority on immigration requests. Minneapolis won't do that. The statute is 8 U.S.C. Section 1373. So, they're violating federal law. And in fact, one can argue that under a companion law, the feds could begin charging people in sanctuary cities,
aiding
officials.
Aiding and abetting?
Yes. And more to the point, there's another code section, 1324, and it says any person that conceals, harbors, or shields from detection any illegal alien is committing a crime, imprisonment by not more than 5 years. So I argued a long time ago that the federal government and Trump and his first administration should take action against these sanctuary cities and states that are doing this. It hasn't happened, although I did see a comment from President Trump that he's now finally thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. He's got to get tough with these. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Greg, thank you so much. We'd love to talk with you later this week, too. You're terrific, Greg. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's the perfect time to replace that beast in your basement, your old inefficient boiler, with a highly efficient Peerless boiler. Peerless boilers, they're a perfect match for homes, apartments, commercial buildings, you name it. Get the heat and hot water you need efficiently and save big on your energy bill all year long. Learn more about the entire Peerless Boilers family of products, and to find a local installer near you, visit PeerlessBoilers.com. And remember, my guy Pete Morgan, Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers, PeerlessBoilers.com.